Welcome back to Madame Tortuga's Lounge with your host, the neurodivergent, mentally ill, non-binary, polypan, pagan Pisces, Dottie the Psychic, a Metro Valley Pagan Pride affiliate. Hello, my Dodlings, and welcome to another episode of Madame Tortuga's Lounge. This is a Shameless Self Promotion episode with. Let you introduce yourself.
I'm Katelyn Dawn. I'm not great at introducing myself. Yeah, this is the part I'm not good at, Dottie, but I do have a podcast called That Pennsylvania Witch. I am a high priestess. I'm a druid. I'm a hermeticist. Mostly, I'm just a huge nerd. My sole intention for anything that I do is so that I get to ramble and nerd out with people. So that's what my podcast is about. I have a few other things going on. I teach classes, so I'll give you all my information if you want to explore it and check out my website and all of that.
Yeah, definitely give us all the links. Those links, whatever links you send me, are going to be in the description, which I'd love to check out. I have seen your podcast. I actually was on your podcast, sort of. Like, I think we recorded an episode, but the audio was junked. I was like,
It was in my early days. It was in my early days, and I am getting better, but there is definitely a learning curve with technology. So,
amen. It was like, I've looked back at some of the things, some of the episodes, because you can do it on your cell phone. I have done a lot of work on my cell phone, but there is a level of professionalism that you have to just slog your way to. There's not, there are tradings out there, but it's kind of just like you're always on your own a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've learned so much more from my mistakes, than anything. So definitely.
So what inspired your podcast?
Honestly, I know so many amazing, brilliant people. A little bit of a backstory here. Dottie, you and I both know that I am involved with the Black Forest Clan, which is based out of South Central Pennsylvania, but we are a global organization. I am a high priestess. I have a coven within that organization, and there are a lot of people in that group that are just brilliant and have a lot of information and wisdom to share. Well, I haven't done a lot of interviewing those folks yet on my podcast. They're who inspired me, because I realized how lucky I was to have access to these treasure troves of information. That sounds cheesy. Ugh. But it's true, because they're just wonderful people, and their entire intention is to share what they've learned. And that inspired me more than anything. I also had a lot of experiences with, I love podcasts. I listen to them when I walk. I listen to them when I'm doing mundane crap like cleaning. And I really enjoy listening to them, but there have been some times when people talk over authors or creatives, and the episode is supposed to be about them. Conversational ones are fine. It's supposed to be a collaboration, a reciprocal thing. But when an author was being interviewed and the person interviewing would kind of overshadow the author, that would just make me so sad. So that was another inspiration between, as far as why I do this. If you hear my dog behind me, that is Hazel having a nightmare now. This is getting ridiculous.
Oh, poor baby.
Well, it might not be a nightmare. She might be dreaming about chasing squirrels, which is like one of her favorite pastimes. So we'll see.
My dog will move in his sleep sometimes, like,
yeah,
and he'll start running. Well, we love animals. Like, Luther used to be on the podcast. We may be seeing Luther back up on the podcast, because he was back when I was when I had this set up where I lived in St. Albans. Peanut and Luther would come on, and you could kind of still see him in the old episodes. Peanut unfortunately passed away. I don't know if I have anybody here who may even remember her, but Luther's very much alive and kicking. He just celebrated his 9th birthday. He's a distinguished gentleman now.
Oh,
he's adorable. So hopefully we might, like, when we get this is going to be my last recorded episode. This is not going to be the last episode where everybody sees the background of the office, because I've got I actually got like 3 episodes. I'm good till like the new year for a
Oh,
while, which is great because I'm not gonna be able to record until I get the new office set up. But this is gonna be the last episode recorded in this office for this podcast.
hmm.
So it's kind of nice to have somebody that like, because I'm interested in the Black Forest clan. I'm actually getting ready to dedicate. Um, yeah, I'm very excited about that. I would like to know. So, could you tell the listeners and myself what is the binding material, we'll say, of the Black Forest clan? I know that there's certain levels that are oath bound. But
Sure.
you know, I know why I'm dedicating, but what are some reasons that we can entice people to learn more?
Well, it is a dynamic and rich history. I mean, because within our organization, we have folks who are British traditional, we have folks that are into Braucherei, or some people call it powwow, I call it Braucherei, and hexcraft and hexerai. And then we have people who are heathens, hermeticists, druids, and the lessons in the material that we learn from is a rich amalgamation from previous members. It includes folk magic and really all of the tenets of any classical traditional system, but it's a unique meld. It's like a molding of really rich, diverse history and practices, and the perspectives of the people that have written the lessons are, melded within there. And then of course our clan head is Silver Ravenwolf, who has published dozens of books, and really just a wealth of knowledge. There's so many people who are judgmental of, and I'll admit I was one of them, kind of a system, or they don't want to label their practice, or they don't want to take the label of a tradition or say I am a Wiccan, I'm a pagan, I'm a druid, etc., etc. But really, when it comes down to it, your title doesn't matter. The values of the organization, your own personal values, and your own personal practice and what you bring to it is what matters. So we could say the Black Forest Clan is a Wiccan tradition, but it is so much more than that. And I love how the main tenets, in my opinion, and I'm not authorized to speak for Black Forest, but this is just my own personal gnosis and how it's melded within my system of belief, is that everything boils down to sovereignty. And also recognizing that you're not an island. We do a lot of work together. We have a very strong foundation. I'm very proud of the things that we've accomplished and that our clan heads and our leaders have accomplished. We did a wonderful thing throughout the pandemic that kept me sane. Silver was able to kind of bring people on Zoom. And that was when Zoom wasn't, you know, as well known as it is now. And of course it was, well known by people who have office jobs, but a bunch of elder pagans may not be as well versed in that. And so it was lovely because we kind of strengthened our bond throughout that time. And we also had awesome people on, like Robert Shriver of the Uglava group, who is also with Heathens Against the Hate. And we had a bunch of other people on, Patrick Donmoyer, Matt Oren, so many people, just wonderful, knowledgeable folks. And that's what I love the most about it, is the collaboration, the freedom to be, and the fact that we all have this really tight bond, and that it's not a financial investment. I mean, I throughout my 20s went and found a bunch of groups, and I ended up paying a bunch of money out of pocket or having to contribute in other ways. Now, of course, there's a reciprocity that always happens with group dynamics. I mean, you should put your chairs away. You know what I mean? You should help bring paper towels and
Absolutely.
paper goods. It's that kind of common decency. And if your person, your high priestess or your facilitator is printing out a lesson that is 200 pages long or 150 pages long, throw them some money for ink, because that stuff's expensive. You know what I mean? But it's not money based. It is all about sharing knowledge and making our tradition steadfast. So that is a very long-winded answer to your question, but that is why I'm all about Black Forest.
You know what? I wouldn't call that long-winded. I would say that is a broad look at it. I do appreciate that. And because I mean, I think I think a lot of us chaotes, it's kind of this dynamic where you got half of these like edgy little edgelords that never left their mom's basement, and then you got a bunch of like people like us who are like, okay, I like my story. I had the cool mom cult, the cool mom coven, which is contributing to the delinquency of a minor. You can be a cool mom and not be a cool mom.
Yes.
So I think we all a lot of the things you addressed are kind of things that Metro Valley Pagan Pride is trying to address without being a specific type of paganism.
Yeah.
That is certainly one of the things, because we've had Robert on here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did an episode. It's funny, we actually did 2 episodes. Don't worry, folks, the other episode will come out. I think our next one is probably going to be Ollie. He's my Quaker friend.
Oh,
He's amazing, and he does Mothman Ministries. I've been teasing his episode now for like 3 months. He's probably going to be next, and then I've got another one, and then it'll probably be the second one for Robert. But we did one with Robert that was pretty much focused mostly on his like activism.
yeah. Robert really inspires me quite a bit. And actually, it's funny, just recently I was at the York County Pagan Pride run by the Keystone Pagan Alliance. And I just popped in, and I do a lot of work with the local Unitarian Universalist congregation. I help in their Earth-centered spirituality program. I've done a few services, nothing major, but I know a lot of people locally from that, and also from my other practices. I will admittedly, I am not only in Black Forest. I'm also in the Uglava group. I am so bad. I'm learning my German, Robert. I promise. Please don't come at me. And I'm also a druid. And again, like I said, a hermeticist. And so all of that melds within my Black Forest practice as well. But I know a lot of folks locally is what I'm trying to spit out. And I was so surprised when I walked in and I saw Robert. I was like, what are you doing here? And he was there with Heathens Against Hate and also their group, which I'm so excited about. And I'm excited about his book that's coming out too. Him and Stacy wrote an amazing, I haven't read it yet, but I hope to soon. I pre-ordered my copy, and I don't know, I might have them on the podcast too if they're willing to ramble with me. So they're a good group of people.
We're trying to get the we want to get Metro Valley Pagan Pride involved with Heathens Against Hate, because we have one of the largest heathen groups on the East Coast is, here in West Virginia and here in Charleston. We have they're actually a recognized Hoff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hoff.
Yeah.
Haas. I always get the 2 mixed up. It's one of those. It's either Haas or Hoff. My husband is oathed in, so like he's a part of the group. And it's funny because I know a lot of times people tend to think of heathenry as being very, very racist. And I'm like, this is the most inclusive group of people in West Virginia in general. Like,
yes. Yeah. That is definitely a misconception. But you know what? It is and it isn't, because there are people that
definitely are.
Yes, they use the imagery, they use the symbols, and they've taken it to a place of hate. And in my experience, that does not at all align with any of the values of the organizations that I'm in, with heathenry or otherwise. And I have ancestry. I mean, I have a Germanic ancestry that is very strong, Norse ancestry, Swedish, Danish ancestry. And I just think Yeah, you're right. People take it to a place of hate, but they are such an inclusive, wonderful group. And I didn't realize that West Virginia was kind of a hub like that, but it makes sense.
You know what? It's kind of one of these things like I think sometimes being a smaller group gives us the advantage of not having enough people to break down into further groups. Like if you are a weirdo in West Virginia, then you're a weirdo in West Virginia. You got to get along with the other people who are not going to fit in with the mainstream. Like there are rich office types and there's rednecks and then there's the rest of us. And once you're kind of in the rest of us, we're all kind of in it together. So it's kind of funny to see because I've talked to people from other places around the country where they're like, oh, these two groups inside the pagan community don't talk. I'm like, the only groups inside of our pagan community that don't communicate are people who have burned the community. I will say, like, yeah, everybody's got their people who've burned the community, but and people who are exclusionary.
Yes.
I will say that there are people in the community that have burned the community that are not exclusionary. Like, I'm not going to put that on somebody, but those are kind of the only people that we don't associate with.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Like, yeah, because once you're excluded from the group, it's a kind of all the same at some level. We're all I tell people all the time, and this is kind of morbid, but it's the truth. We're all getting burnt at the same stake.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. If you are dismissive or cruel or exclusive, you really miss out on a lot.
It's not worth being lonely.
No, no. And what's the point of, building these diverse communities and these networks, if we can't collaborate with one another? I know that that's something that Robert was talking about at the Heathens Against Hate um, presentation at the last event I was at, is that a lot of pagan groups or earth-centered groups have the same goals. They have the same values. They really want to create these spaces. They want to create community. And they're really good about creating their community, but we're not always so great about connecting with each other. One of my students, who's actually also one of my mentors, I call her my mentor student, is she always says that we're missing the mycelium, the network, for everything coming together. And I agree. I think that that's a skill set that we should probably keep developing, because we need each other right now. I think we always have, but especially right now, it's important that we all, just are there for each other.
I agree. I agree because I it's funny. It's a lot of the like I have always done, like, since I was able to turn on a camera and start to do YouTube, I've kind of done the shameless self promotion thing because I'm very much I mean, I was a merchant brat. So I grew up around other merchants and I have seen the dynamics that merchants do better when merchants pull together. There is a set of social rules, you keep the money up above board,
Hmm.
you count dollars between friends.
Yeah.
Um, but a merchant that and it's funny because merchants that are unapproachable don't
Mhm.
last.
That's true.
Merchant, merchants that are set off to their own, like if for whatever reason, and it happens to everybody. This is not a comment on somebody as a merchant because it's happened to me for no reason at all. But if you are an island, then you're not going to make the same amount of money. People will not walk further just to see one booth. But if there's two, they'll walk over, you know? So and it is funny to watch how people will, that's a tangent. I'm trying not to go down.
No, I think it's relevant.
But especially with what happened in 2020 and then again in 2023 and just the general slide, we'll say, the general political environment. I'm
Mhm.
not afraid to talk about it. Um, the one of the first things I was really like, okay, something that I can do. I'm a big person. I'm a big into what can we do? What are we doing? What are we actually doing to improve it? And sometimes that's just building community where you are.
Yeah.
And that's part of why this podcast took a political stilt.
Hey, I mean, sometimes it goes in that direction. It should be whatever you're passionate about, and if it flows organically to that space, then that's fine. I think it's really important to recognize that people, we all work together. We work better together. Um, Reciprocity and kindness and consideration, that's the bare minimum. And I think when that happens, people naturally collaborate and work with each other. I have friends who have a very different opinion than me, and that is very difficult. That's a difficult thing. Um, but they're wonderful people. And I'm not talking about politics in general. There are certain things that I will not bend on, such as hate or, basically, if you hurt my friends, then that's not cool. But there are people that have slightly different opinions that really want to have a conversation too. So I really am proud that I can, swallow my ego and my anger for a little bit, have conversations, because I think that we both come away from that learning something. I mean, you don't know what information someone's getting. It could be just garbage information. They might not be able to discern what's real and what isn't. When we work together and we're honest with each other and we're kind to one another, that's when we make the most progress.
I agree.
Yep.
It's hard. It's really hard right now because I do think that it is so easy and even somewhat natural to cast a moral judgment on somebody who has an amoral opinion.
Mm.
And, opinions are for toppings on pizzas, not for people's rights. But also, and this is kind of one of those, I think that, we're going to be more able to talk to people if, I don't know how to put it, because I will never give up my moral value. Like, I would never compromise my moral value.
And you shouldn't.
Right. But I would also not cut somebody off for having really terrible opinions. And I think that it is a hard line to hold because I've been watching a lot of things on how Germany came back and how people leave cults, because it gives me a little bit of hope in this world. And one of the things that's really, really pushed is that they have to have kind of a place to land. And I certainly can't expect, honestly, I can't expect anybody else to do anything. Like, I am only going to be able to speak for myself. But if some of us have to be willing to do that work, and
It's hard. It is hard because I know that it can be infuriating and hurtful to have conversations, especially when, again, without getting into it, I am inclusive AF. I have had interviews on my podcast that tell it like it is and explain that I absolutely think that hate is unacceptable. I again am a member of Heathens Against Hate now, and I think that it's just so important that we are inclusive. But I do think that there are a lot of people that are very misguided and confused. And I really do also believe that there are good people that are misguided and confused. I also think there's a bunch of jerks, but I'm holding out for optimism, and I'm trying to keep lines of communication open that are reciprocal and respectful. Because
right.
hopefully that's the way forward.
I think that's all we can really hope for.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's lighten the subject up a bit. Let's lighten the subject up a bit. I do love that we can have these conversations openly, and honestly, we need to, because if we stop having these conversations, then it's going to be more difficult to have them later.
Yes.
But I would like to talk about, so you and I are both chaotes.
It's funny. It's not something I talk about often. And the other day when you mentioned it and I showed you my tattoo, I have a chaos star tattoo. on my left hand. We won't need to get into that, but I think that it's, how can you form anything without chaos?
I
It
agree.
gets a bad rap. It's how the universe was created. It's how our planet was created.
It's the thing we are made of. It's the stardust.
Oh yeah, it's manifestation. It's the gravitational, well, chaos is what creates the movement and the madness so that things can coalesce into something meaningful.
Right.
Wow, I pulled that one out of thin air. I should drink more.
God,
I
I
should
love
drink
it.
coffee more often. But I think that's what's so cool. I mean, if you look at like even how our planet was formed or how other planets and star systems and galaxies were formed, it was formed out of chaos. And I also think that's how we manifest. I think that there's different elements to our practices and different energies, and they all take the path of least resistance. And without being able to tap into that, like, yeah,
Primal force.
limitless void. Yeah, the primal force, the limitless void, without being able to tap into that, how are we going to be effective?
I love that. I love that because that's kind of like, and it's funny because I tell you what I've gotten great comfort in sometimes my darker moments where I feel like is I think every ADHD child has had this point where like, what purpose do I actually have? What function am I supposed to fill in this world? Everything I try to do, I'm not able to function the way other people are functioning. And the idea that the only purpose of chaos is to fill the void, and the only purpose of the void is to be filled by the chaos, and neither one are ever going to be accomplishable, brings me great peace when I don't get my taxes done on time.
I like that perspective. I dig it. I can get behind that too. Yeah. I think I don't know, I think chaos practitioners get a bad rap. And it's funny because when I was real young and wandering around in the forest behind my home, by the way, I literally grew up on the Appalachian Mountains. Now, I did grow up in Pennsylvania, technically Appalachia, but people get very mad when I say that because I'm north of the Mason-Dixon line. Forgive me. I'm sorry for being
I don't
north of
think
the Mason-Dixon line. Yeah.
people don't realize the Appalachian Mountains go clear up into Scotland.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, yes, the Caledon so the range, this is so funny. I'm doing I'm as we speak, actually. My internet just came back on, but I have a whole presentation in the Ancestral Pathways Conference that's run by Ness Bosch, who she's out of Scotland, but I met her at the Sacred Space Conference a few months ago, and she's just amazing. But I talk about that because how can you talk about that how can you talk about the Appalachian Mountains without talking about their history and how they were created? Um, that's like my favorite thing to talk about. I mean, rocks and geology, come on. And
right.
that all goes right into our chaos conversation, Dottie. But yeah, back when Pangea, the supercontinent, existed, and that mountain range stretched from Pennsylvania to the Scottish Highlands and even further than that, actually. And of course, all the countries were smooshed together. But I think that that's part of the reason why people were drawn to those mountains and that mountain ranges. I mean, of course, lush agriculture, rich, fertile fields. But I think that they remembered the energy.
I know, like, it's funny because I think I was talking to Jay. If y'all get a chance to check out my other podcast with Jay, it's Chaos Conjure. Because I'm a KO and she is, what is she? Oh my God. I'm sorry, Jay. It's not that I don't know. It is that my brain,
It's
the coffee, I've not finished my coffee yet. That's part of the problem. She's a hoodoo practitioner. She is an Afro American practitioner. Um, it's a very, very cool tradition. And we were talking about how if you're from West Virginia or you've been called to West Virginia will hold you. And like we're the dark heart of the oldest mountains in the world. There's something different about this place.
You're right. It feels well, we're both going to be at the West Virginia Witchy weekend. The weekend of November, what, the 8th and 9th, 7th and 8th? When the heck is it? The 7th and the 8th, I think.
I think it's,
Um,
you know what? Let me pull that up real quick because that's part of why we're doing this podcast was to advertise for them.
one of
Uh,
us should get it together at some point.
yeah, one of my favorite people. You know, it's funny because I have changed who I am to gain this man's respect. One of my favorite people is running Witchy Weekend. His name is Phoenix,
Yeah.
and he is an amazing. He is his own character. He is an amazing tour de force when it
Yes.
comes to the pagan community.
Oh, I adore Phoenix. When Phoenix reached out to me and asked me to be the keynote speaker for this event, I was humbled, excited, grateful. I kind of cried a little bit. I just every time I talk to him, he's so sweet. I end up tearing up a little bit. Just a really, you're right, a force is an excellent way to describe Phoenix. But I am psyched to be the keynote speaker. I'm going to talk about liminality, and I'm teaching a class, and um,
I'm excited about your class. My husband is like, we're signing up for the class, aren't we? Like,
yay! I'm so glad you are. And I'm gonna. I, I never. I never stick to script. I don't. I can't. I jump all over the place because I feel like I tap into the energy of the people that are taking the class, and then it goes in a different direction. Anybody who's ever taken one of my classes can tell you that. But my class will be that Saturday morning, and I don't think there are very many spots. I think that several of them have already been taken. So if you want to hop onto the West Virginia Witchy Weekend website and Facebook, the Facebook page,
it's a Facebook page.
yeah, there's a place to register.
That will also be in the description area. There we go. Oh my God.
Okay. There's a lot of other cool stuff though. I mean, you're doing readings, right? There's a bunch of readers. I'm doing some readings.
I will not be doing readings. I will, however, be teaching a class. My husband and I will be teaching a class together. It is the 7th and the 8th. I've been sitting over here. That's part of the reason I'm not able to string a sentence together is because I'm pulling up but it is the 7th and 8th of November. The theme is betwixt and between.
Yeah.
Aaron and I will be doing a class on liminal gods.
Oh my gosh, that's so normally when an event like this happens, and I know you've been to a bunch of them, have you noticed one thing that it becomes its own egregore? And each year it's different because the theme, of course, is announced, but it's vague. Liminality. There's so many different aspects of that. Like you guys are presenting on the gods. I'm presenting on liminality itself and how the idea of that and boundaries themselves have shaped the way that we communicate with each other, and I where I kind of see it going. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but my talk's only going to be 20 minutes. Hopefully, I mean, I ramble. I'm sure you can tell by now that I'm a rambler, but I can't wait to hear about I can't wait to sit through your class. In fact, I need to know when it is so I can make sure I'm not doing readings during your class.
Yeah, I'm not actually reading this year. I'm going to be doing I've got my camera. Let me show you my camera. I did this. So I've got this thing. It's an expensive piece of equipment that I am not trained on. This is, we were talking before we actually started recording. When you're kind of a content creator, you're a little bit on your own.
Yep.
You're all the way on your own. Nobody, like your friends and family will come and watch a couple episodes, but you're on your own. So I decided I was going to do a documentary of the pagan community in West Virginia.
Oh, I love that.
And so I'm taking my very fancy equipment with me to do that. But also, since I've already got my fancy camera there, I've been asked to do photography and kind of help out. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. It's always a good time. It's funny because that's actually you're right, it is a bit of an egregore and it is always different. And I've noticed that with like community, because Metro Valley Pagan Pride, we have Broom Not Vroom, and every year it's a little different. Like it takes a bit to like build momentum. But when it starts to really take shape, and you can tell like Witchy Weekend's been around for a long time now. I know that the first time I went to Witchy Weekend, it was 2016. So it's been almost a decade. And the money I made there, no, it wasn't 2016. It must have been 2017. 2016 or 2017. Wow. But anyway, I saved the money back from that event. And that's what I took with me when I left my ex. So the profit I made from that event helped me get free. And it was one of those things I had asked. I called him and was like, I'm really interested in reading. And he's like, well, appreciate your interest, but our spots are all full. And they were at the time. So my KO ass just showed up. I'm like, hi, I'm here to read. He's like, well, we just had a cancellation. Have a spot.
That's amazing.
Little did he know that I was going to be a pain in his ass for the rest of his life.
Oh, hey, I can say the same thing. I'm regular. I actually told some of my coven members this morning. So I have elders, and then there's, the OGs of Black Forest Clan, and being in contact with them, I make several faux pas, like in ritual, having to tell them what OG meant. I made them listen to a Tool song one time. It's never ending. But I said this morning, I realize now that I am the personality hire in in the local folks for Black Forest Clan after all of these comical faux pas. I mean, just this morning, I accidentally sent a voice note to them, which was just me singing a Prince song. Didn't mean to do that. That certainly was never something that I intended to do, but I think it's funny. So don't worry about it. I also bother the bejesus out of everybody. We can only be us, right?
Right. I don't think I'd want to be anybody who'd want me some other way, because this is the bill of goods.
This is what you see is what you get.
Right. There's no backup.
No.
I tell you what, one of the biggest lessons I think I have learned in the last few years since leaving my ex, it's funny, is I don't think I've ever really genuinely been capable of masking. But especially since I've stopped trying, I have got a lot more people who like me.
How do you find your people if you're not being your true self? Because if you're projecting something that you think you're supposed to be, or that you've been told you're supposed to be, that isn't truly you, you're gonna align with
fake people.
You're gonna attract those people that are doing the same thing. And if you can't be authentically you, first of all, my heart goes out to you, because I think that we've all been in a space where we felt that we couldn't be ourselves.
Right.
And some of us sink further into that and try to fit into that system, and then some of us shirk that system altogether, all get out, just heck no, turn our backs on it and don't go back, and just sink into our weird kooky selves. And I think that's when true alignment happens. I mean, I've met more people just by wandering up to them and being like, hey, I read your book. Your book's awesome. I don't know. I don't know. It's fun to be you.
Everybody else is taken.
Yeah, everybody else is taken.
I don't remember where I got that from. You know what? I do want to talk more about being chaos. Like, it is kind of funny. A lot of us, the ADHD nerd kids, it is technically a left-hand path. But most of the people I know who take the left-hand path all kind of play it straight.
What does that mean? I'm going to quote one of my elders. Whose values say that it's the left-hand path?
Fair enough. But that's the whole point of it being left-hand, is that you pick your own, right?
And truly, if you're doing something that you're drawn to, I think you're supposed to be doing it. And on top of that, that's not the only thing that I practice, but it's the roots of it. And if you look at all of the diverse tapestries of belief systems and practices, aren't most folk magic practitioners chaos practitioners?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, your work, especially, I love like granny magic, magic of like the local magic, folk magic, because it is born of necessity often.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, you
know,
give
this
it
is,
a shot.
it's stuff that survived when, like, times before doctors and medicine and just
Mm.
I always thought that was kind of amazing. Like, it's rich and we need to keep it like moving forward.
Yeah, and I do think, I mean, of course there are people that are going to have bad intentions, and I'm sure that there are chaos practitioners and Wiccans and druids and hermeticists that are malicious. I'm sure that there are. And in fact, I know that there are. But
Right.
I mean, it's not easy to pick them out. I think your intentions matter. And I know you. I know you pretty well at this point, and I know that you have good intentions, and our values are similar. So I, I'm confident in that.
You know what? I appreciate that. I certainly hope that that is the energy I give off. It's certainly the energy I try to give off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
we are about a half hour in. What I forgot where I was going. Did you have a book?
Did I write a book?
Yeah.
No. So, well, the reason I think you're thinking of that, I am in the process. I
Thought he
have
was psychic.
I do have a few. I have not announced it yet. I'm really excited. Actually, haven't told many people about it at all. Um, I've had a few done for quite some time that I never did anything with. And until recently, I didn't realize what I was doing with them. Some of them are smaller, like novellas and that sort of thing. And others yet, I think are going to end up being classes, but I'm working on a project with a friend right now, and his name is Tim. Sup, Tim. And Tim and I have actually known each other since middle school. And Tim is really great at design and organization and teaching me how to use fancy software. And I'm really good at like chaotic, weird energy and pulling in different things together and weaving them together. Um, but we're starting a kind of an indie publishing project together, and it's called Hemlock Studio. And we are very excited about it. It's just a passion project, I don't think we have any great ambition for it to be a huge thing, but we saw how difficult the self-publishing process was for a lot of our friends, and I saw it personally as well. And we have resources to help people. But we also saw that with the publishing companies, and not all of them, but a lot of them will take things and they will drill it down and shave it down until it's marketable and not necessarily deep and esoteric and true to that person's artistic, you know, value system. Because
Llewellyn Parse.
I have no beef with them. I actually really enjoy them, but I think they all do that a little bit because their job is to make you their job is to make you a popular author. And a lot of them do that. That's not what our intention is, though. So I think that with having an intention to just really showcase the author and their own belief system, I think that'll be a fun project for us.
That sounds very cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fun. He has a friend who has an idea about doing a photography project, and some of the local places that we both really love, and where he lives with his wife and kids. It's a really beautiful town, and rich in history, and of course, in the Appalachian region. So those pictures are going to be really biodiverse and cool, and focusing on the history and also just the unique characteristics of that area. So that's in the works. But then I have my own personal stuff going on too.
I would love to, like, we do need more pagan publishing places. Like, I understand, like, we're still a niche community. Like, all of America, there's only like 1.5 million of us. which is not an insignificant number by any means.
Mm-mm.
But like we're still growing and kind of finding our way into the cultural zeitgeist.
Mm. Oh yeah, and I have great relationships with a lot of the publishers, and I think that there's wonderful dynamic things about each one. I would not say no to working with any of them really, because I just think that they're great. But I do think that there's some merit in the little guys. I think that having a like an indie publishing company is something that I don't know. It just sounds like a lot of fun. You know, we can showcase one or two authors, we can showcase our own work. We can spend a year working on a project that's, you know, steeped in local history if we want to, and just be free to be, you know?
That actually is really cool. I actually have a zine. I'm working on a second one. You may have to do business.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
That would be awesome. If anybody's interested in my zine, it's on Tessiomancy. I did one on tea leaf reading. I'm like, because it's very like a lot of
Ooh.
my content, my Dottie the psychic content, like there's Madame Tortuga content, which is a lot. It's a lot more deep in the pagan culture. Like I want to know more about the community. This is my community channel. But my Dottie the psychic stuff is usually English hard geared more towards like my clientele, where I'm explaining a lot of the 101s and like the generic magic intro somewhere, you know, not quite new agey, but like the open source magic, we'll say, you know, the stuff that you can kind of just put together and find yourself amongst the community, and that everybody knows how to do that stuff. Because especially here in West Virginia, I know that this is like the proud Appalachian tradition, is a lot of times you learn stuff by watching people do it, but we don't necessarily have names for everything we do.
Mm. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is intuition, right?
Right.
And when you, oh, now this is another really cool topic that I was just talking about in my presentation. It's fresh on my mind because with folk magic, whether it's regional or not, if you trace it back far enough, the roots are ancient. And sometimes you'll be, I don't know about you, but when I was a little kid, I did weird stuff in the woods. I did weird stuff in the woods, and some of the things that I did, you know, reading 25, 30, 35 years later, and I'm reading a book about Swedish trolls and land spirits in Sweden, and some of the chants and the rituals and the charms and such that their folk magic kind of springs from. And something that I did intuitively must have come from there or from an older source, and I just found that out.
You know what? That's pretty interesting. Gail. We don't think about how much we gain from like a lot of our storytelling, how much
Mm.
we gain from. I know, like, especially when I was a kid, my dad was a big storyteller. And even some of the older stories, they kind of all have the same kind of basic morality. Like, I love the moral tales because because the good guy wins.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do think, like, a lot of times we will, I don't know how to put this. We ran across the spirit one time, my friend and I, and they called it something different than what I did. I think a lot of times we'll sometimes impose our, I think the spirits will accept us kind of imposing our ideas on them so that we can fit, so that they can fit into our minds. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're much older than, like they're older than humanity.
Mm-hmm.
If
Oh
they're,
yeah,
you know,
oh yeah, and the links are incredible. I mean, thinking about the regionally shaped deity worship, if you trace gods and how they essentially walked with human beings along the Silk Trail. I say that in every I do this paganism 101 course, and I say that cheesy line every time, but it's true because it's like a reflection. So our perception of the gods, it reflects back on them and then back into us in this plane of existence, in my opinion. And I think that there's so many similarities that when you look into them, I mean, even in different continents, there's similarities. I think that's really special.
That's really true. It's funny because, like, there are so many kind of types of paganism, and sometimes, like, for functional purposes, when I define pagan, it is as broad and wide as it needs to be to help build and protect my community.
Mhm.
Um, but the finer details are kind of interesting, like the way people believe in, like, the difference between soft polytheism and hard polytheism. And I realized that I'm like a half cooked polytheism. I think the gods are as real as I am. I'm just not sure I am. Sometimes, like,
Fair.
and it's kind of interesting to think about the genesis of gods.
Mm.
I had a friend tell me he thinks that spirits are generally on like an upward spiral, and the way he described it was interesting. It was really interesting. And like, it might be a local spirit, and then they become like an egregore. People start to like a local land spirit. We start feeding that egregore, building idols to the egregore until they slowly become gods, and then can expand outward.
I totally think there's validity to that. And I also think that it definitely lends to the idea of us being a reflection and vice versa, and embodying the traits and having that inner core that is, we are of God, we are like God, we are God, those statements. And if you look at some of the local figures, I mean, in Pennsylvania, we have Mountain Mary, Browthread practitioner, Pennsylvania Dutch practitioner, did the folk magic, did what they were at that time called powwow, and some people still call it that. But really, it was folk magic, and the roots of that come from ancient well springs. And Mountain Mary is now on pamphlets and in books. She's in the Pennsylvania German Cultural Center at Kutztown University. She's in Patrick Don Moyer's book, Powwowing in Pennsylvania. She's a legend, an egregore. And I don't know. I mean, I absolutely see that happening. And then there are people who call the gods ascended masters, right? Or they
Right.
call deity or our ancestors the beloved dead, and then sometimes the ascended ones, the exalted ones.
Have you
That's a common trend.
have you seen this trend? Like, we had somebody on here before, Jasmine. I talk to her still, but she is part of a newer tradition, like the American folkloric witchcraft, and
Mm.
it's very interesting. Like, it will she if you've got a nerve to touch, she's gonna tap dance on it, and that's part of why I love her. Like, straight up. If you've got a nerve to be touched, she's on it with her two-stepping shoes. Um, but they call they have the beloved dead, which is like, ancestry, people who, we love. But then also the mighty dead, like, which is like the cultural ancestors, the witches, the line, which I thought was very, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
It was an interesting way to describe something, because we do have our own, like, we've started on our Metro Valley Pagan Pride. Unfortunately, we have now lost enough people to have an ancestral council, which I can't imagine the three people that are on there actually spending a lot of time in the same room, but they are all part of the culture.
yeah.
um and it is kind of interesting to see how we, especially going into Samhain, how we treat our ancestors, how we still work with them as much, like, and it's kind of interesting sometimes to think they kind of do take on almost legendary status if we continue to tell stories about them. Like, even in my family, or I'm sure even in your family, like the family history, so these characters that we never would have known in real life have taken on some legendary power.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And there's so many of them. I mean, thinking about people that shaped our traditions, and we can talk about ancestors of time and place. There's just so many facets to that. I think that's beautiful.
Okay, folks, we're getting kind of close to the end because we're doing a two-part. Are we doing the two-part episode?
Yeah, I think we can.
All right,
Yeah.
let's see if we can pull this off. If you want to continue listening to this podcast, we're going to switch over to her channel. And you want to go ahead and tell people where we can find that?
Absolutely. So my podcast is entitled That Pennsylvania Witch, and you can find that anywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, iHeartRadio. And there's also an embedded link that I can provide. So my platform is Buzzsprout, so you can also look for it on Buzzsprout. But basically, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can give us a follow on our Facebook page, and our Instagram page for upcoming events and that sort of thing. But yeah, please tune in on That Pennsylvania Witch for the rest of this conversation.
We're definitely going to have to like geek out in private on like the whole content creator thing, because I feel like we've got information to share. I feel like we could do a little get together and up our game together. So thank you guys for joining us again. As always, English hard.
Mhm.
As always, you can find out more about me at DOTTIE, thepsychic.com. Safe travel and much profit to you. Thank you for joining me at Madame Tortuga's Lounge. In case you didn't know, I am actually a full-time professional psychic with another YouTube channel. I'm also part of Metro Valley Pagan Pride, and if you'd like to learn about all of those things, you can find out more at DOTTIE, thepsychic.com. That's DottieThePsychic.com. Safe travel and much profit to you.